There's nothing special American is.
I am the nation. I was born on July 4th, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate. The bloodlines of the world run in my veins because I offered freedom to the oppressed. I am many things and many people. I am the nation. I am 200 million living souls and the ghost of millions who have lived and died for me. I am Nathan Hale and Paul Revere. I stood at Lexington and fired the shot heard round the world. I'm Washington, Jefferson, Patrick Henry. I'm John Paul Jones, the Green Mountain Boys, Davy Crockett. I'm Lee.
There's nothing special about being American. None of you can define for me what an American is.
I am the nation. I was born on July 4th, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate. The bloodlines of the world run in my veins because I offered freedom to the oppressed. I am many things and many people. I am the nation. I am 200 million living souls and the ghost of millions who have lived and died for me. I am Nathan Hale and Paul Revere. I stood at Lexington and fired the shot heard round the world. I'm Washington, Jefferson, Patrick Henry. I'm John Paul Jones, the Green Mountain Boys, Davy Crockett. I'm Lee.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to episode 20. Today, we're going to talk about something pretty serious, very serious, actually, and that is Agenda 2030 and where we're at now with it. And we're very close to it coming to fruition. We're going to talk about digital ID, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, for those who don't know that acronym. Why it's important to not go into that if we can. And maybe we try to think of a few ways we can stop it from happening, or at least ride the wave a little smoother into it. I'll be real honest with you. I'm not 100% sure that we can, but my motto is we don't give up hope till all hope is lost. So some of the things we watched today might be a little blackpilling. I pulled up a little documentary here on YouTube. We're going to watch it, pause, comment on it, and watch it as we go. It's only about 50 minutes long. There's a couple on there. You can just type in Agenda 2030 on YouTube, and a lot of good people have made some really great documentaries. I think it's important for us to go back and watch this and then bring it forward once we're done with the stuff that I believe that's been added onto it since then and where we're going with it. And there's two ways in or out of this, and we'll discuss that at the end. So today's cover is this. Oh, my bad. And it says, Agenda 2030, are we running out of time? Now, the black pill answer to that is yes. And I don't see, let's say, we're moving out of the Trump era and we're moving into a new era. And I don't see who's next to take Trump's place truly in the GOP land. And if the Democrats get their way, we'll be heading into Agenda 2030 before then. They want this to happen because they think centralized power will give them the stuff they've always wanted, the free rent, CBDCs. I don't think they quite understand the true authoritarian nightmare that it will become, because I think in their mind they're going to get socialism out of it. And we all know that's not reality. There's plenty of examples from around the world throughout the last 100 years where socialism has never worked, or communism. It's one and the same to me. So I don't just look at it as social. It's communism, socialism. Communism is the move into socialism, or vice versa. You get one or the other when you go for one or the other, really. This is serious because this is the total takeover and control for the globalist minions of the world who want absolute power. This is 15-minute cities. This is checking what you can and cannot spend at a grocery store. If you bought too much meat for the month, then they can limit it. This is the end of growth for the human race in a certain aspect. This is a lot of things. And I think too many people are waiting on a savior, like the second coming of Jesus. And I think people looked at Trump as that. And the problem with that is we sent a man in there naked. And what I mean by that, naked, we sent them in there alone again. We did to Trump what we did to him in the first administration. We sent him in butt naked. We didn't send help with him. And the one thing we should have learned from the very first administration, that if Trump was our guy and he was the one that was going to go in there and stop this agenda from happening, well, we should have sent soldiers in with him. We didn't. We sent him alone again. And we kept the same people in office who effed him the first time, really. And while our side grew weaker, the Democrat side turned into the DSA, Democrat Socialists of America. And they're getting backed by these globalists, by these New World Order types, by the Zionist militants who want to destroy America, along with the global banking cartel. Because if they can implement their digital ID and if they can implement all their kill switches on everything, I don't know if you guys know, but in 2024 or 2027, sorry, brain fart, there will be kill switches in every car. It's mandatory by the government. So every car as of next year that you buy will have a mandatory kill switch. 1 second. Every single car will have a mandatory kill switch. So once all these things are in place, we are in a world of hurt and there will be no turning back. At least I believe not for a very long time. I hear everybody else's plans. 3032, 3036. But nobody wants to truly understand where we really are. The Democrat Party's pushing further and further into Maoist, Stalinist socialism. And there's almost no turning back for them. There is no turning back. They're getting increasingly more violent, increasingly more, fervored by their ambitions. They're pushing for this world order, really, whether they know it or not. And they'll be taken for a ride, but unfortunately, sometimes you don't know that until it happens. So the unfortunate part for us is I don't think there's any more reaching out to them and talking to them. And we're the only ones left now standing between freedom and collapse. As you know, we just passed the $40 trillion mark for debt. And not to sound hopeless here, but I do want you to know there is no paying that back. That's over. Any fantasies or fallacies you had about that being paid back are over. They're not going to. Clearly, they keep spending and overspending for a reason. They're accelerating the collapse. Now, we're going to watch this documentary and I'll get more into it and where I think we're going with this, why I see it in the new age right now, that their plan is kind of coming to fruition. And there is a few ways to slow it down or stop it, but we really got to get our asses in gear. We really don't have a choice. Everybody wants to pretend like this isn't real and it's not happening. And this is, oh, it's great to make this little documentary and then forget about it. It's great to talk about it during the at World Economic Forum, having the actual talks about it. But did everybody forget that the World Economic Forum has these talks about it every time they meet up? And that it just changes slightly because they furthered the plan. They don't, the initial talking about it, about, oh, Agenda 2030 was the beginning. They're in the middle of it now. Digital ID, CBDCs, this is all Elon Musk even came out and said 90% of jobs are going to go away. But we can stop that if we don't comply and we don't do certain things. The problem in our country, and this has been a major problem for a long time, is a lot of mom and pop's businesses sold out to corporations. And they keep selling out. And when you hand over most of your business to these corporations, well, they're going to do what corporations do. And they're going to do what's right for them in their eyes, and they don't give a shit about us. We can't forget what is Agenda 2030, and we can't forget what is really coming. People think we have time. I'm not saying it's the end of the world, because it's not the end of the world, but we're moving into what's called the fourth turning. And we can either be prepared for that and understand what it is, and maybe we don't have a choice, but at least we can get prepared together and understand that. Or we can stick our head back in the sand and live in la la land and, pretend it's all not happening. It's going to take some real men and women here to really stand up and give this some serious thought. And either we stop. I was talking on Facebook today with some people. I post a lot of shorts on there, a lot of videos like that, reels. It's the only engagement you really get on Facebook is reels. It's kind of like Instagram that way. I have a person on there that we were just talking, and we all feel something bad is coming. We all know something bad is coming, but nobody is getting up and doing anything. Everybody's waiting for some savior to come. Like Jesus is about to come back tomorrow. He's not. Nobody's coming to save you but you. And that's the cold, hard fucking truth. Nobody's coming to save you but you. So let's watch this documentary here together. I'll stop it, pause it, because we need a reminder of what is coming and how far they've already gotten. And then I'm going to take it from where this documentary leaves off, because this is a little bit older of a documentary. And I'm going to try to connect today's dots with it, because I think people have forgotten, and then people don't understand where we are right now. We're in a very strange time, and either one, we can do something about it, or two, we can prepare. And preparations doesn't mean food, and it might mean get you some food, because God only knows if they collapse the system, then we're in for a real nightmare. because a system collapse or change is coming, whether it be in our hands when it happens or theirs. Donald Trump is doing something, but I can't tell what it is right now. It's very hard to see. It's like 50-50. Either, yes, he is actually playing some 3D chess, or he's going along with their program. Either way, we need to be prepared in between. We'll talk about that after the documentary. That all kind of goes with the second half of what I believe. I wish I knew how to edit videos a little better. I would make a newer documentary for this, because a lot of people don't understand 3 years is all we got left to this Agenda 2030. And the minute they push the digital ID or the CBDC, one or the other, we are in the end game. We're in the end game right now. Make no mistake, we are in the end game. Okay, let me Doctor Strange this for you. Oh, I just saw 16 million possibilities and we only win one. Okay, and I'm not trying to bring it to some movie, but it seems to be the only way people freaking understand crap. They have to be lost in fantasy land. So, oh, there it is. I just saw it. Okay. So, we have a choice to make, and we have two. One, if we don't think we can stop it, or as we get closer, it's not going to stop. You got 3 years to either get really rich and try to basically set yourself up for the future of this, or two, we start enacting a plan to try to stop it or slow it down or something of the sorts. So let's hop into this video. Let's see what they've got to say. We're going to stop it in between and have some words about it, but for the most part, I'm going to let it play. Now, I am using this under fair use rights. I know a lot of people want to go bury your head in the sand. Go ahead and do that if you need to do that. Or if you think, oh, whatever, this guy's just talking out of his ass. Because I promise you I'm not. I promise you you're in for a real trip here. Coming up soon. Digital ID, CBDCs. It's all coming. So, all right, without further ado, let's go ahead and watch this. And we'll convo in between.
So when you understand the enormity of this problem, of our healthcare system having basically become a golden goose for the large corporations, and the amount of money that comes in through politicians and the public relations and the paying doctors and so forth, you get a hopeless sense. I spent more than 10 years in national pharmaceutical litigation. During those 10 years, I got to see what was in the corporate computers. We got the hard drives from the executives and the scientists and got to see how this really works. I dropped out of litigation because it wasn't changing anything. Money changed hands. People who were injured got paid off. States who got hurt by opioids got some money. But it's not changing the basic structure of what's going on, where the drug company's purpose and realized purpose is to just extract as much money from the American society as they can. That's why I wrote Sickening, to explain this problem and to show people that there's only one path out of this. The only path is for Americans to become educated about this problem so that the power of Americans voting is greater than the power of the drug companies' political contributions and lobbying. There's no other path out of this mess than for the American people to become educated enough to act in a way that will create genuine reform.
But if these megalomaniacs get their way with their one world political and economic system that they're trying to build, a lot of us won't wake up. They are obsessed with the idea that there are too many of us on this planet, that we're consuming too many resources, that we're
Sorry, guys, I had to stop it there. How many of you guys really believe that there is 8 billion people? Who did the consensus? Could countries be lying to further say there's more, like China? Do you really believe there's 1.5 billion Chinese people? Do you really believe there's 1.5 billion Indian people? Well, there might be. The place is pretty crowded. But, I mean, do we really believe that? Is that something you guys even believe? Leave a comment if you do or don't. Secondly, who gave these monsters the right to do it, right? Like, we did, right? Because we're just sitting down and doing nothing. We're not fighting back in any real manner. We're not taking these people to task. They get these softball interviews. They get these, like, just where talking points, and they're not getting asked any really hard questions. So let's move on. Let's go ahead with this guy.
Cancer on the earth. So many of us won't wake up. I'll just say that clearly. They say that clearly. And when I go to these UN summits, it's just out in the open. They don't even hide it. They believe there are too many people here. They think the ideal population would be somewhere between 500 million and maybe 1 billion. And even that, with the emergence of artificial intelligence and robotics, I think a lot of them now think that even that is far too high. So many of us won't be waking up if these megalomaniacs get their way. But those who do wake up, I think really can look forward to a future of slavery, a future where all of your decisions are made for you, even basic decisions that in the past wouldn't have even been considered as possible candidates for usurpation by government. Like, who do I want to marry? What kind of family do I want to have? How many children do I want to have? What kind of work do I want to do? What do I want to say? All these things would be determined for you. The technocrats back 100 years ago used to claim it was under the guise of efficiency. So we'll make the world more efficient. Today, it might be under the guise of being more sustainable. That's just another ridiculous buzzword.
So that's another thing. I'm sorry to stop it there. I know we just started it. The buzzwords they use. Just know every single time when they say this is for your safety, this is for helping, this is for this and that, it never is. It's almost always the opposite. I would say 90% of the time. 90% of the time, it's opposite. It's almost never, oh, we are here to help. Like, what did Ronald Reagan say? The worst words you could ever hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Oh, Jesus God. No, I'm good, man. If I'm laying on the ground dying, I'll sew myself back up. You know what I mean? Like, I got this. Don't worry about it. Just give me some antiseptic spray. You know what I mean? I'll walk it off because I'm from the government and I'm here to help. No, you're not. It almost never, ever, ever works out in that way. All right, let's continue.
Justify tyranny.
Be careful of buzzwords. That's the point.
But the short answer is you will lose autonomy, you will lose sovereignty, you will lose liberty. And to the extent that you're allowed to operate and exist at all, it will be as a means to an end. That end is to empower and enrich the people at the top. So you will not make your own economic decisions. You will not make your own personal decisions. Your entertainment will be kind of ubiquitous. Drugs will be ubiquitous. I mean, about as miserable as can be. They use fear as a very, very powerful mechanism. And when people are scared of overpopulation, of a disease, of whatever, they're willing to accept ideas that they never would have accepted before. Now, in communist China, you don't even really have to convince people to do stuff. You just point a gun at them and force them, or throw them into a re-education camp, or cut their organs out. So in China, they've even dispensed with the pretense. But even in the Western world, it's so alarming that they have been able to make so much progress. And it's through a combination of dumbing down the population, indoctrinating the population, and terrorizing the population that they've been able to accomplish so much. I hope they won't succeed, but they're definitely making a lot of progress.
Pat Snyder makes you pay more.
Oh, sorry,
he
guys.
voted with his drug company donors against capping the price of insulin.
Sorry, guys. Well, as soon as I can get past this, I will. I guess a commercial or two here and there.
Incentive that they use for the media is prestige and money. Right? Unfortunately, just like in other professions, most people will sell out their principles. They'll sell out their fellow human beings for money and prestige. And we see that so clearly in the media world. You look at the people who are paid the most in the media world. They're all people who have sold out their nations, who've sold out the truth, who've served as propagandists for evildoers, in many cases consciously doing so. So it's very, very sad. You know, when I go to these UN conferences, there are thousands of so-called journalists there. I call them the cheerleading section. It's pathetic. You see a Chinese communist come out and make an announcement that we're going to save the world with this climate agreement. And these guys, like trained SEALs, they get up and give them a standing ovation. Are you kidding?
See what I mean? They never get pressed. And that's the problem. And then they purposely put all these trained SEALs in those rooms so they can never be truly pressed on anything. These people just want to be there to be there. And it's absolutely insane and insulting. Because you think a single one of them are going to actually ask a real question? Do any of them even get to actually talk to them, you know, or is it all pre-fed to them? It's like, you got to give me a sheet of what you're going to say, and I'll say yay or nay. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's not a real press conference. That's a preset conceived notions, a set of questions, which I can easily read and come up the answers with, instead of catching you off guard like they need to and truly getting the real answers. That's the problem. It's all fake. It's all a puppet show. And it's going to be so hard to try to destroy that and come back to reality. It really is.
Kidding me? You don't have any real questions to ask them? So it really is disgraceful. I even hesitate nowadays to, like, if I'm in an Uber, somebody asks me, you know, what's your job? I even hesitate to say journalist, because they just assume, like, oh, you're one of those, like, nasty, lying, disgusting, dishonest propagandists, enemies of the people, if you will. So that's very sad. But we do still have journalists out there who are doing good work, and I'm grateful for them. And I hope, if we defeat these megalomaniacs, that history will record that there were still some of us out here doing real journalism, despite what the clown car at CNN and all the rest of them were doing. It is very demoralizing to see what a joke journalism has become. And the people see that. There was just a poll that was released recently here in the United States that found that 60% of Americans regard the media as enemies of the people, which I don't like that phrase, because it reminds me of, communist China and the Soviet Union and things. But the reality is, yeah, the media in America has largely become enemies of the people in the truest sense of the term, in that they want to hurt you. They're selling you out. They're destroying your country, they're destroying your family, they're lying to you. So they really are. It is encouraging that there are still some solid voices out there that are doing real journalism.
Yeah, but it's not the problem with that is it's not the mainstream, right? Which a lot of people take them serious and don't take many online pundits very serious still. We're still in that weird, even though this has been around for 20 years, we're still in that, like, infant stage of it, if you will, where people are still going to mainstream media and getting their information from them. And Barack Obama, before he left office, signed an executive order, I believe, or had Congress pass a thing where it was okay to the Smith-Munns Act or something, where you can propagandize again. You can propagandize the people. So the media, look who owns them. Even Fox News. I don't take Fox News serious. They cover water cooler shit. To me, that's all they cover. It's shit you talk about your buddy with at the water cooler. Hey bud, did you see there was a car accident on I-95 today? Like dumb shit that doesn't really matter. And they're the talking points for the Republican Party. And then CNN and all the rest are pretty much the talking points for the Democrat Party. And it's the whole divide and conquer strategy. You never get actual news out of these people or anything of any serious, chutzpah. It's always just mundane, very water coolery type of stuff. And it's never anything good. And the CIA infiltrated news organizations back in the 50s. Um, Look at the cover up of JFK. Look at the cover up of Martin Luther King. Look at the cover up of what I believe, and this is just all my opinion, of Charlie Kirk, even to this day. Look at the cover ups. Nobody wants to dig deep. You know, it's sad that a woman named Candace Owens has done more research on her friend's death than probably the FBI. You know what I mean? And that's just my opinion, but that's how I feel. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy to me. And how could you ever believe the official narrative, knowing that the media, the FBI have all been involved in scandals, have all been involved in multitudes of misconception, lies? Yeah, it's too much. We need a system reset, but not the great reset. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, I think that is what's coming.
That are digging out the information and doing their best to disseminate it. But what's happening is the system, if you will, is doing everything possible to silence those voices through different means. Now, some of them they just murder outright. Gary Webb was a really good example, who exposed the CIA's involvement in cocaine trafficking. Well, he committed suicide by shooting himself twice in the head. And that is not uncommon, unfortunately, when it comes to journalists. There was the journalist from Rolling Stone, I believe Michael Hastings was his name, who supposedly crashed his car into a tree at 100 miles an hour or something. And then heads of intelligence agencies came out
and Breitbart as well. Everybody remembers that. The guy, the actual Andrew Breitbart.
said, oh, we have the technology where we could have done that. Not, we definitely didn't, but we could have done it. It's like they're laughing at us, right? And it was the same with Gary Webb. Everybody knows he didn't. Everybody with a brain knows he didn't kill himself by shooting himself twice in the head. But it's like a message, right? If you touch these stories that you're not allowed to touch, bad things will happen to you.
Show off your sweet side with your.
Hold on. Sorry, guys. I gotta at least do this with it. All right, let's go back to full screen. Yeah. Obviously, tapping yourself twice in the head is impossible. You get through one and you're pretty much done from there. So yeah, we all know that that's impossible. So let's go back to it. Here we go. Oh, sorry.
Themselves are very, very closely aligned with the planks and the plans of the communist movement since the 1920s. You have to remember, back in 1963, this was actually read into the congressional record in the United States, that there were 45 plans of international communism. One of them was to institute the United Nations as the savior of all nations, and to get everybody on board with falling into line with what the United Nations is trying to do. The 2030 Agenda is all about instituting the United Nations as that one global authority that's going to dictate everything. So all of the plans, all the planks of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, they fall completely in line with what Karl Marx had written in the Communist Manifesto. You talk about the stuff with agriculture, absolutely mirrors everything that Karl Marx wrote about agriculture. You want to talk about medicine, absolutely mirrors what the communists have been implementing with trying to create universal health care since the 1950s. And you want to talk about things with equity and redistribution of wealth. These are all part of Marx's plan. So the Sustainable Development Goals at the very heart are communist goals. And the real question is, why?
See, that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. They have communistic goals, and it's for a reason. It's not that the globalists at the top are necessarily communists or socialists. They just want the power. They just want the absolute power. The communists, socialists in our country, got some idiot singing. Hey, who sings that song, bro? Not you. It goes back to what I was saying, though. The top part of the upper echelon is not communist, right? They're not socialists. They just want the power. The communists in our country are a means to an end. That's all they are. They're useful idiots. And the problem is they can't see that, and it's so crazy to me. How can you not see that? How can you not see you're being used? And then you brainwash sheep. We got to forget about them, and we have to take control and move to the future on our own. We have to come up with a plan, implement said plan, and try our hardest to push forward with it, because we're running out of time. And I do believe there is some time left to change this, but as the days go, oh God in heaven, I'm sorry if you guys can hear that. We're working on limited time here, and Trump has taken up. Unless he's doing something else, which we'll get to at the end here. Sorry, I keep pausing it, but I have to.
Why is the Catholic
I have to for fair use.
Church so invested in making sure that those plans are realized? And the real answer is that the Catholic Church has been infiltrated. And that's the reason.
The Catholic Church has been infiltrated for a long time. They've been a part of the plan for at least the last 100 years. And that can be all proven. Look at what every pope has done since John Paul II, I believe, and that was back in the 70s. He was like the outlier, but every pope before him always pushed what? Socialism, communism, but they just didn't call it that.
Why they are so committed to pushing these goals of the United Nations. One of the things that you have to understand is that back in 2014, Pope Francis had a meeting with Ban Ki-moon and Jeffrey Sachs about the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. In that meeting, they were talking about the sustainable development, and Pope Francis committed the entire Catholic Church to the Sustainable Development Goals. And ever since then, every single year, he has given all kinds of statements and public statements and calls and cries and calling for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. One of the things that he did was he promulgated an encyclical called Laudato Si.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it.
Because the Catholic Church has been in on it for a long time. They were infiltrated. They might have been one of the progenitors of it, or at least a part of it, along with the banking cartel, the Rothschild, the Rockefellers, all the way back from 1639 or something like that. I might have my dates a little messed up, but ever since back then, when they took over the Bank of England and started the usury program on the entire world, and what they did was, so you couldn't default, they would give those loans to another company who would then use those loans to get another loan somehow. It's all a mess. I can't explain it all off the top of my head here, but it's a mess. All right, let's get back to it. Sorry, when the commercials come, I gotta pause. I'm not going to give free commercial use here.
This came 1 year after he committed the Catholic Church to the Sustainable Development Goal agenda. Laudato Si makes 28 references to sustainable development and calls for the adoption and implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And ever since, as I mentioned, he has made it his pontificate's agenda to make sure that this globalist ideology is implemented. The question is why? Why is he doing this? And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Pope Francis has a lot of friends who are communists, a lot of friends who are part of the liberation movement, and that friendship is predicated on a similar ideology and philosophy. And he is very much in support of this one world ideology, and it's very dangerous. So in 2015, Pope Francis actually addressed the General Assembly of the United Nations. And I want to read to you something that he said. He said, "The adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the World Summit, which opens today, is an important sign of hope. I am similarly confident that the Paris Conference on Climate Change will secure fundamental and effective agreements." He also said in 2016, this was during an address that he gave to the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences on the topic of human trafficking. He said, "I am grateful for this fact that the representatives of the 193 UN member states unanimously approved the new Sustainable Development Goals." And then later in March of 2017, the Vatican held a conference that was called Religions and the Sustainable Development Goals, Listening to the Cry of the Earth and of the Poor. I mean, again, wrapping in all of this earth crisis and poverty crisis stuff just to try and give a sense of urgency. He said this: "The 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, approved by more than 190 nations in September of 2015, were a great step forward for global dialogue, marking a vitally new and universal solidarity." Those are chilling words given what we know about the Sustainable Development Goals. And what's more is that we have to understand the Vatican has never really been critical of the very grave and terrible elements of the Sustainable Development Goals and the dangers that they impose to anyone around the world. They just keep lauding them as if they were this great saving plan of these oligarchs that are going to now transform society.
Well, because they're in on it. They have a stake in the claim. I think the Vatican pays no tax. They have a gold reserve, probably, in my opinion, larger than the United States, for God's sakes. They have most of the information, and this is what I believe. So the Great Alexandria Library burning, I'm going to do air quotes, I think that was a looting of it, and then they burnt it to the ground. I think the Catholics took almost most of the information they could get out of there, or all of it. I don't know. And that's what's under the Vatican right now. I believe ancient knowledge and certain things are hidden within the catacombs of the Vatican. And they use that knowledge and technology and whatever they can gather out of it to implement their world order. And for them to live great lives while we eat chemicals. You do know most of our food isn't even allowed in the EU. The EU, for God's sakes, cares more about its own people than America. Our bread is considered poison across seas. Most of our canned goods and foods, not canned goods with just water and the vegetables, but a lot of the other canned goods, like a lot of the soups, have enough sodium to induce a freaking heart attack. Enough preservatives in it to preserve your body if you drop dead. 4 major corporations own most of the cereal aisle. 4 corporations own most of the chip aisle. If not, I think that might even only be 3. And you damn right, they behind the scenes, in my opinion, they talk to each other and do stuff. Almost none of our food is natural anymore. It's all GMO. They hide so much, and the Vatican is a huge part of it. The Vatican's been part of the world order for a long time because they knew, what did they always use to control people before now? Religion, right? So they just changed religion. Now religion in America is left and right. You know what I mean? To the Democrats, their party is a religion. So they have used religion for many years to control the public. And that's why the Vatican's in on it. They've been in on it for a long time. I think the Pope is, in my eyes, a front man. He's a front man. He's not the manager. He's the front man. He's the guy they shove in front of the screen. He's the holding hands and kissing the babies guy. That's what he is. That's all the Pope is. He's the front man. The managers behind the scenes are the real men running the show. I don't think the Pope makes any decisions. And if he does, he's just one decision maker out of a group.
And make things better for poor people. So they're using the plight of the poor to push an oligarch's agenda. That's sick.
So what can we do about it? So this goes back to this whole thing. The world thinks global. All solutions are local. So the tinier you can make yourself,
Local.
the more self-reliant you can make yourself, the more independent you can make yourself, the more likely you can survive whatever the world is going to do to itself with relatively little impact on your safety and security.
How do you survive that when you got that coming down your street, though? That's my problem with it. When you got this going house to house to house with this tank and these armed soldiers, what do? I could see this. Look at, and I'm not saying any conspiracy theory of what happened in New Orleans back in, was it 2005 or 7, or I can't remember the exact date, but the hurricane. I believe that was a testing ground. I believe that was natural, and that happened. That could be natural. At least there's a big chance. And the levees were old, so they failed. Sure, I'm not saying anything about that. What I'm saying though is, I think that was a testing ground. They got rid of posse comitatus, and they got rid of it for a reason. They do everything for a reason. People think the government is stupid. The front men that we hire, and I call them front men because that's all they are. You think they're the ones running the government? No, man, they're the deep state. It's the deep state. It's not the people we put in there. They get to pass legislation. They get to look like the people in charge, but they're more than likely not. So it's all a front. They got rid of posse comitatus for a reason, where you weren't allowed to have troops on American soil like that, and you weren't allowed to do certain things of that nature. They got rid of all that for a reason, which is highly illegal, by the way. They can't just get rid of it. It's written into the Constitution. So technically, in a legal sense, it's not legal. You can make no law thereof, meaning you can make no law that violates the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. And it's null and void the minute you write it. Problem is you have mindless drones, and they've done a really good job at hiring a lot of mindless drones to carry out their orders. And this right here, even though this looks like Iraq or Afghanistan, that's all testing ground. Will we go house to house? And I'll tell you this, a lot of people are like, well, that's our military. Not when they're mixed with the United Nations, because they're not going to just send the United Nations here by themselves. They're going to have them join in with our military. And look what happened in Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. The soldiers had no problem grabbing. I've seen videos of them grabbing 80-year-old women who one lady had a snub nose 32 or something, little revolver. And they got violent with her and broke her arm and took it from her. And all guns must be turned in. Since when? Yeah. It's all a testing ground. And if you think, let's just say, somebody from Texas gives a shit about somebody from Michigan, they don't. That's how they'll do it. They're not going to put the Michigan military in Michigan. Their National Guard. They're going to move them to a different state, and they're going to bring in a different state's National Guard, because we are broke up by states. It's pretty simple to do. And then if you throw in a mix of United Nations, soldiers with that, and then you're going to have a group of people that don't give a shit about you. And they're going to do this right here. They're going to go house to house.
with relatively little impact on your safety and security. On the other side of the coin, the world is going to change enough that a lot of the conveniences that we may have today, we may not have the way that we think that we would have them. When the Roman Empire fell, and we went into a period of time called the Dark Ages, 400 years later, people came back to Rome and marveled at the ruins of the Roman Empire and could not figure out how they built it. In 400 years, they had lost all of that architectural knowledge. They have been dumbed down. How their legal systems worked, how their political systems worked. The greatest empire imploded, was gone, and the ideas of which they built all of that stuff on eroded with the buildings that they had built. In my mind, it's easy to see what you would have to do to be sustainable.
Which is why they burnt down the Library of Alexander. Which is why when that happens, people don't take books with them. What do? They take life supplies. You know, when people fled Rome and the Germans or the Anglo-Saxons came in and sacked Rome, people didn't take books. They just took food, clothing, materials to start a fire, and maybe some materials to make a new hut somewhere. They didn't take books. And the ones who did, they were so scattered probably. You shall perish from a lack of knowledge. And that's a really good example right there is Rome. Rome fell, they couldn't figure none of that out. When they came back 400 years later, they were completely stupefied. That's insane, man. I mean, 400 years is a long time to try to, withhold that knowledge. If they could have came back maybe 20 years later, you would have had maybe a semblance of some of that, but it would have never been the same again. 400 years is a long time. Imagine trying to come back to America 400 years later and restarting the Republic from day one. You wouldn't be able to. It would look like something else completely different.
Local. So, like in my case, I live out here in Idaho, so I had a rule, and I didn't do it because I thought the world's going to end. I just did it because it seemed to make sense. One road in, one road out, a local community that produces 10,000 times more than their needs. So one farmer in Parma, Idaho could feed 10,000 people. Whereas where I came from in San Diego, it takes 3 people outside of San Diego to keep one San Diegan alive. And by the way, the history of the world is big cities always abused the rural communities. It happened in France, it happened in England, it happened in Russia, it happened in China, it happened all over the world. It's happening in the United States where the farmers really feel abused. It's happening in Europe where the farmers are, up in arms saying, like, we're the breadbasket. We keep you guys alive. You can't be abusing us like this and coming up with rules that work in the city, but have no business out here in the farm. And don't talk to us about the environment. We are the environment. We know more about the ground than you do. We know more about the water than you do. We know more about the food supply chain than you do.
I dare you to let me build you a completely...
Jesus, there's a lot of freaking... There's a lot of freaking... All right, there we go. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Once again, city people, city slickers, making laws for people who literally feed you and know more about the soil, ground, air, water than you could ever imagine, because that's literally their job. That's like walking into a hospital and you going in to see the doctor, but you're telling him what he should do for you. I mean, what are we talking about? Say what? I'm pretty sure that doctor would look at you and be like, oh, well, why'd you even come here? Same concept, to a farmer. I'm going to go out to a farmland that I have no clue how to run, no clue what's in the soil, no clue how much water he has, no clue what he's even planted there, because most people can drive by a ton of crops and not identify 2 of them out of 100. I mean, most people don't even know where their food comes from these days. When you ask somebody, factory, no. Where's the beginning of your food come from? Like a cow, a chicken, a pig, a piece of rice. Where's the rice come from? Where's the grain come from? Where's the grain in your bread come from? If it collapses, I do agree with the government. 90% of people will be dead within the first year. You know, that's the government's, why can't I think? Anyways, the government has said that they believe within the first year, if everything was to collapse, no electricity, no food, 90% of people would be dead. 85% of people live in the cities now. Only 15% of people live in the rural area. And out of that 15%, how many of them are, sustainable on their own? I mean, because you live in a rural area, I'll use out by my mom for an example. Most of the places I drive by when I go visit my mom lives 20 miles out in the country, way out there. When you drive by, yes, you do drive by a few farmlands. You do. Some big fields too. But it's like every 6th or 7th house, maybe even every 10, maybe even every 15. So that means 15 people before you hit a farmland don't even have their own sustainable, food or nothing like that. And if they do, it's just a small little garden that can sustain them maybe for a couple months. And most of them don't have chickens and cows and things like that. They just have vegetables that runs off of, they do have wells, so they'll have water. So out of that 15% that live in rural areas, I would say only 5% of them even produce. That means 5% of in your rural areas around major cities, maybe 5% of them produce enough food to sustain some amount of life. If this all collapses, I don't think people quite understand how screwed we really are. And people don't understand the point where we're at. Well, they're not going to let it collapse. They might if they want to depopulate. And you don't want to be the one to kill everybody and drop nukes to kill all these people and drop bombs. How else do you do it? You let the system collapse. You let it handle itself. It'll work itself out in the end, and they'll step in at that pivotal point where they're down to enough people to where they feel like they can manage you. They call most of us useless eaters. What's our economy? I can see kind of where they get their point. We don't build nothing anymore in this country. There is some manufacturing jobs where I live, a couple, but it's mainly service jobs. It's service industry. That's not producing. That's customer care. That's service. That's, you're not providing anything of any real value. A smile and here's your burger. Where the hell did the burger come from? That's the real producer. We're in for it, and we need to get a plan, and we need to get our head straight. And I mean it. Like I'm dead serious about it. Get your mind right. What are you doing? Okay, you want to put your head in the dirt? You got children? You like your little house, your little mortgage, your little everything? Yeah. You got too much to lose? Well, you're going to lose it anyways, in a bad way. Hold on. Let me unpause it.
Local, there are things that you can do to help yourself, and then there are other people, you'll still specialize in things. You can't do everything, but an interesting thing that I learned about rural America. Rural Americans or Russians or rural anything, they know how to fix everything. Honest to God, they can fix their roof. They can grow anything. They can build anything. They're just not intimidated. And they had to learn how to do it because they live in a rural area, and getting somebody out with the expertise to do that, they have to pay $100 just to have them show up at the door before they even start. And they don't have that kind of money. So they just learn how to fix things on their own. They're very resourceful.
And that's only 5%. That's 5% of the population, tops. So keep that in mind.
You don't see that in the city, and most city folks couldn't survive. If you are thinking about this stuff, then the thing that you think about is a minimum of a year's supply of food. I have 7 years supply of food. Mine is all freeze dried and hermetically sealed and all that kind of stuff. And I did the high-end prepper, so mine are gourmet things, because if I'm going to suffer, I want to suffer at least, kind of gourmeting it as I'm going along. I have a 10,000 gallon underwater tank. I have a 40,000 gallon pool that I can convert into something else. I could cook inside, I could cook outside. I'm self.
How many of you are self-reliant? How many of you have 3 months of food and at least a month's supply of water? Be honest with yourself. I'm tired of the naysayers. I'm tired of it. The system is literally collapsing around you. And you want to live in denial? It's insane to me. Like, pull your head out of your ass. Seriously. I don't care if you get pissed at me. Go ahead. Be mad at me. Here's the person you should be mad at. Go look in the mirror. Dummy. The system ain't going to collapse. Yeah. Yeah, because you know too, right? You don't. That's the problem. Because you didn't pay attention. How else do you depopulate? If their number one agenda is depopulation, other than spraying some aerosol in the sky that murders millions, which they're not going to do, the easiest way to do it is to pull the plug on the system, let it collapse, and let us eat each other alive while they hide in their bunkers. Why do you think all the billionaires and even millionaires have bunkers? They don't have them for no reason. You don't build that stuff for no reason. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, there's a few countries they'll keep standing, Switzerland, probably one of them, because that's where they like to live. It's a really nice country. Maybe Finland. There will be a few countries that still stand at the end. China probably won't be too hardly affected. Their population will go down, but more than likely they'll keep the lights on for the most part, and they won't follow the program. But they're not going to let you in. And all these countries that are going to keep the lights on aren't going to let you and me in. We're heading for something real bad here. The fourth turning is upon us, whether we like it or not, whether we care or not. And how we prep for it or how we get ready will determine whether we survive through it or not. And that's the truth.
Sufficient. If you're really into prepper mode, you would own a pickup truck, and you would own a pickup truck that was pre-1960. I forget what it is, but anything in the 1950s, because it has no electronics on.
Oh, well, good luck on that. That's a little too much, because most of those trucks are gone. This is 2026, man. Most of those trucks are gone. If you were smart, what you would do is get an EMP meter for them or stock up on parts for it. That's the best you can do with that. So, sorry to keep interrupting instantly, but some of this stuff is like that's kind of goofy. A 1950s, how many 1950s trucks survive right now? Absolutely not, especially if you live up in the Rust Belt, and they call it that for a reason, because of snow, and then they put all the salt on the roads. I mean, my God, I've seen 5-year-old vehicles with rust on them up here. You know what I mean? And I ain't seen a 1950s truck, driving down the street in years. So that's kind of goofy, but it's good. It's good if you can get your hands on one, but it's kind of goofy.
On it, and they're, it's easy to work on the engine. They're easy to fix. You don't have all the electronics and all the other stuff that may not be viable going into the future. Typically, if you were a real prepper, you would have your own gas tank, your own gas pump, your own diesel pump, your own diesel tank, like a little mini gas station. And then you would have, probably as a prepper with decent land, you could probably support your family and lots of other people with 3 acres. Easy.
I'm begging you, start mass.
Yeah, you could do that. That's a tall order. That's like super prep. But at least I would say start with at least a 3-month supply of freeze-dried food. And look at it this way. If it doesn't happen, then you're just prepared anyways. It lasts for 30 years. Water, I would just buy one of those bathtub liners. I mean, I highly doubt the water is just going to go off overnight. That would be something you could just turn your faucet on, let it run until it's full. At least you got a bathtub full of water. And maybe have a couple extra, like, what are those, the big 5-gallon jugs? Pails. And if you absolutely have to, if you live near a lake or a river, you can boil the water, maybe buy some iodine tablets, kill any germs, and, just be prepared in at least, I would say, a 3-month capacity. It's always just smart. All right, hold on.
Well, the current economic system, what I call, and many economists are calling a death economy, is not sustainable. It's not working. Increasing numbers of people are seeing that. I have the wonderful opportunity to travel around the world a lot, speaking at events. And everywhere I go, I see that people are raising their consciousness. They're more and more understanding that the system isn't working. At the same time, the status quo is pushing back harder. And that's been true throughout history. Whenever there's been an interest in a new idea, let's call it a revolution. And some people object to that word, it's a little strong, but I think we're going through a consciousness revolution. And whenever there's something like this going on, the people who have the money and the power try to stop it. That's been true historically. The British Empire tried to stop the United States from breaking away from that rebellion. But the important thing here is for the people who are the agents of change, the rebels, if you will, to take energy from the opposition. So I've been a martial artist most of my life, and I know that if I'm up against a guy who's bigger and stronger than me, I can't outpower him. I can't overpower him. I've got to use his energy against him. And good agents of change, revolutionaries, if you want to call it that, will always use the energy that's thrown against them, that's thrown at them. They'll use it against their opponents. George Washington was a great example of that. He kept losing battles over and over and over. I mean, the guy had an amazing ability to stick in there regardless of what happened. His soldiers, their feet were bleeding. They, Valley Forge, and many other places, they had no shoes. They didn't have clothes. They had no food or very little food, but they just kept going. And they were throwing the British energy against the British. And they realized that. And, I think, and the other thing is to change people's perception of what it means to be successful. So reality is molded by perception. There's no United States, there's no Ukraine, there's no corporations, there's no religion, there's no culture except as we perceive them. And when enough people accept a perception or codify it into law, it changes our actions. And when we change our actions, we change reality. So you can really say that perception molds reality. And a great case was George Washington, because back in 1773, 1774, almost all Americans believed the British were invincible. Biggest, most powerful army in the world, best trained, best financed. You couldn't possibly go up against them. Washington recalled a time 20 years later, during the French and Indian War, the battle of what's called the Battle of the Monongahela in what's today Pennsylvania. And he recalled that he was with General Braddock, who was the best British general in America at the time, and the largest British army, and they were marching to Fort Duquesne, which would become Pittsburgh, but marching through the wilderness, this huge British army, and they were attacked by a much smaller band of Indians and Frenchmen, and totally defeated. Braddock was killed. Most all of his officers were killed. Hundreds of his men were killed. Very few French and Indians were even wounded. It was a classic. And Washington remembered this. He was there. He was one of the few who survived. So he goes before I think before.
Wow. That's pretty great though, isn't it?
The Continental Congress, he speaks to people and he says, you know, the British aren't invincible. All we got to do is hide behind trees, change the perception of warfare. And, you know, it's all about changing perception and then taking actions, and that changes reality. And of course, Washington changed the reality of the British Empire at that point in time. And the British Empire never recovered, actually.
Oh, hello. Do you love your girlfriend? Did you know that you can clone her voice?
That's creepy. This commercial, not what he said. Hold on a minute. Sorry, I got to do this. I'm not giving free commercial time here. That does give you hope that there is a chance. Now, I don't know that there's a chance having a secondary revolution, but there is a chance that we could take back the system. And it all starts locally. It all starts at home. You take back your local government by taking back the school board. You take back the mayor office, if you can. You take back the local fire chief. Whatever office is open and available, city comp controller, whatever office is available, if you can do it, you do it. And you slowly take it back that way. And it all starts locally. There is hope. This isn't all hope is lost. Oh my God, we're doomed. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. You know, and that's the real motto of there. That's the motto of the day. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. There's still a chance. There's still time. There's still time for us to step back up and take control of where we live. And we still do have some time. We have 3 years before the full fruition of this Agenda 2030. Unless they try to implement the CBDC and the online ID, digital ID, prior to then, which my guess is they will the closer we get. I know Britain, I'm pretty sure Britain already has. I don't know if Canada or Australia has yet, but that seems to be how it goes. Europe does it, Canada does it, Australia does it, and then they try to impress that onto us. So I don't know how close Canada is or Australia, but I know Europe has already started the process. So we got time. It's what we do with that time between now and then that really makes the difference. Hold on 1 second.
Time now in history where we see that we've created a system that doesn't work, and it's based on a perception that we need to maximize short-term profits for corporations and materialistic consumption for everybody else. That's a perception that's molded a reality that is no longer working for us. So we got to change.
It's not sustainable. And on top of that, they made it purposely not sustainable so they could bring in their world order, so they could bring in their Great Reset, the fourth turning, whatever you'd like to call it, whatever acronym there. But the system, what I do disagree with him a little bit here is the system's running exactly how it was designed to run. It was only a 100-year system. We've gone past that by 13 years. So it was only a 100-year system until they could reconfigure it and bring in the rest of what they already had planned back then. You got to understand, this is an old plan. There's nothing new. When they call themselves a new world order, it should be called the old world order, because that's what they are. Their plan is old. Their plan is from way back. It's just taken them a long time to implement it as intended. It's called slow kill, boil the frog.
That perception to say, no, what we really need to do is maximize long-term benefits for all life on this planet.
There's a lot that can be done to oppose this agenda. And I would suggest that it begins at the individual level. It begins with everybody listening to me right now becoming informed. Don't just believe the things I said because I said them. You don't know me personally. Go read these documents that I'm making reference to. Go read these speeches that I'm making reference to. What you'll find is that this is exactly what these evildoers say, but the vast majority of people do not understand. So step one is really to educate ourselves and those in our immediate surrounding, maybe starting with our families, starting with our neighbors, with our churches, with our individual communities. So after you're done educating those in your immediate vicinity, I think it really needs to then become action oriented. So I think that begins at the local level. Develop relationships with your city council, with your mayor, get involved in the local political process, get involved in the political parties at the local level, get involved somehow at the grassroots level, and maybe run for office, maybe support somebody running for office. So we have seen how much states and local governments can do to hold back this push for tyranny, even just recently. Here where we're sitting in my little corner of Florida during the COVID madness, we kind of just opted out. I mean, we didn't participate. Our local, our county, and our state government, for the most part, left us alone. In many cases, they actually actively intervened to protect us from the madness coming out of Washington, D.C. And we're seeing that right now with Agenda 2030.
My local government did not participate that way for us, but there was a group of us here where I live where we did not participate with the masks. We did not participate with the shots. We did not participate with a piece of paper that if you're on the streets, you need your boss to sign it. And our cops around here did not enforce that. So I will say it does start, it's all local. It all starts local. And it starts with waking your friend, your family, anybody who will listen up, and then moving to the next stages of that. And some of that is prepping, and some of that is trying to take back your local government. And then that way, when these decisions come down, like he said, his government stuck up for him because his local government is ran by people like him, who think like him, who act like him, and will not accept the tyranny. So that's where it all starts, is locally. If you can get your local government, and not what you have in there now, if your local government that you have is the same local government that enacted in 2020 with the shots, the masks, the paperwork, all that, then that's the government you need to get rid of. If those are the people you have in place, those are the people that got to go. Because at the end of the day, if enough of us stand up, they can't stop us all. Sure, they can hurt a lot of us. And some of us might have to take the hit, man. You're not going to get out of it unscathed, more than likely, in some way, state or, some state or form. But we do have to stick up for each other as a whole in some capacity. And we can do it. But it starts locally, then we grow bigger. And then when we become big enough, we start a local or not like a local chapter in each state, and then each state can, have a chapter where we can have like a chapter leader that talks with them, and so on and so forth. We need to organize again. If you want to defeat this in a non-violent way, it's all about organization, and it's all about pulling together. And we need chapters. And even if each chapter in each state only starts with 5, 10, 15, 20 people, it doesn't have to be that much. You could start a Facebook group. You could start a Instagram, a TikTok, or pick your social media group. It's one thing to just listen to people online, but it's another to start organizing with them and start locally and working and branching your way out into a larger mass. I mean, even if it just becomes 10, 20 million, that's good enough. Only 5% of the country stood up with George Washington and the forefathers of this country. I don't know how many of you actually know that, but a lot of people did not stand up and fight with him. It was only 5% of the, total population of the country. That's all we need. That's a big group of people, especially in a country of 350 million of us. 5% of that, what is that? I don't know what 5% off the top of my head is. I'm not going to lie. I think it's somewhere around 10, 20 million. Anyways, isn't that good? That's a big amount of people. And if we each have control of our own areas, or at least the ear of the people who do have control, we can affect some serious change. We can do something real. But we have a limited amount of time right now. It's going to be too late if they implement all this stuff and then we try to stop it. We have to get ahead of it. So we have to start now. So we need to start local chapters and then branch out to the next local chapter group of people. And we have to start, it has to be a connection through all the states, or as many as we can get on board, and then go from there. And other people will have new ideas and better ideas. But this is, like a starting platform for it. We need to organize in a healthy, real way. And we have to stay up on it. And we have to, even if we think all this is not going to happen like 100% the way I say it is. Well, I'm not the one saying it. I'm just informing you of what the big dogs, you get it. But it starts with grassroots, and then it always works its way up. And if all the beginning forefathers of this country had was 5%, my God, then 5% today with 350 million people, I would say that's all we need. And local governments behind us, at least enough of them to when they try to implement these plans, say no, just like the COVID.
With these different UN programs. The legislature of Alabama voted unanimously over a decade ago to ban UN Agenda 21 in their state. Just very recently, we had a Louisiana State Senate vote unanimously to ban this World Health Organization power grab in their state. So this is something that can be replicated all around the world, even though we all have different political systems. If you're a member state of the European Union, ask your parliament to pass a law saying that we are not going to submit to this kind of tyranny in our country. If you live in Oklahoma, work with your state senator, work with your state representative to get a bill passed saying those ridiculous things coming out of the UN are not going to be enforced in our state. Anybody who tries to enforce them is going to be guilty of a crime, is going to be arrested, and is going to be prosecuted. These are all things that we can do. We can work with our sheriffs to make sure that they are understanding. Their job is to protect our rights. Their job is to uphold the Constitution that they swore to uphold, not impose whatever Joe Biden or the United Nations says they need to be imposing on us.
Wow.
Exactly what I was saying. It all starts locally. And then you branch out. Starts at home, and then it just goes from one person's thought out to the world. You know what I mean? And we just reach as many people as we can. And you get 20 people in your state locally. Then that branches out to another part of your state. Now you got 100 people. Now you got 100 people working together, weekends, once a week, once a month even, something. So something is better than nothing. And sitting on our ass and just allowing this to happen and then trying at the last minute to get that touchdown at the last 2 minutes of the game, that's not going to work out, man. We got a pre-game plan and then rush in with it. You know what I mean? And just start implementing where we can. There is things we can do. If his government and part of my government, the police at least, didn't have the heart to do that COVID restriction thing, all that bullshit, then there is hope. But we need more states. We need more local governments. We need more people involved. And it doesn't necessarily have to be to a stop Agenda 20, we all got to stop Agenda 2030. Well, we do. That's the main goal. But it could be just to stop the small implementations that they try to push to get to that agenda. It's not going to be one giant push. It's never been a giant push. It's small little things. And they all add up in the end to a big thing. We got time if we start now. We got the ability to do it if we enact right and nonviolent. We don't have to be violent. You don't need violence till violence is needed. When all hope is lost and everything, we're at that last moment, if that's what you feel you need to do, God forbid, hey, I'm not telling you to do it. I get your situation. I'll just put it that way. But there is a lot of time to go nonviolent, take back local governments, implement certain things into play, talk to the senators and governors, and maybe from here forward, the people we elect, if they don't say, start talking about this and saying, I'm not going to implement this, and this in my state. I don't care what you say to the federal government. We have to stand behind them too. They need support. Problem is we can't send somebody up there alone with no support. So they need a group of people who will stay on top of this. They need local governments backing them. So it all comes down to any part you can play within your local government. If you've got the time and the energy, get yourself in there and do it. All right. Hold on one second. Back to our presentation.
What changed me? That's a good question, right? Because I did believe that what I was doing was the right thing for a long time, but I began to suspect things. And Omar Torrijos, the head of state of Panama, an incredibly charismatic man. I really liked him. He was a party animal. He loved to party and invited me to these wonderful barbecues. And his people loved him. And he was a David standing up to Goliath. He was standing up to the United States. He was insisting that the Panama Canal belonged to Panamanians. It should be reverted back. Panama. And I would be there and see this huge swath that runs right through the center of the country. That's the canal zone. And it had something like, I think I got the number right, 18 private golf courses and these magnificent clubs and lots of movie theaters only for gringos, or people that were employed by them. It was a U.S. colony inside a sovereign state of Panama. And they had their own laws and their own police force and everything else. And it was a real thorn in the side of Panamanians. And Torrijos hated it. Now, Torrijos had been trained in the School of the Americas, a CIA school that trained, operatives in Latin America to support the CIA. So he knew what was going on. He'd been trained there, and he came out of it, and he was absolutely determined to stand up to the United States. And he was becoming very popular around the world as this David, little country that had a big canal, but very few other resources and no military. It had a National Guard, but no other military. It didn't have a very big economy. And he was standing up to the United States. And so He's a problem for the American government. And I'm sent now to convert him, to bring him around, to bribe him, to corrupt him, to bring him around. And he gets it, and I liked him, and he could see that I had a conscience, and I just didn't understand what I was doing was wrong. And Omar says to me, he says, you know, what you're doing is terrible. It's really wrong, and I want you to understand that. Why don't you come work for me? You won't make nearly as much money, but you'll have a lot more fun. You know, look what I got, and you'll be doing the right thing. You'll be doing something really good for the world. And it got to me, you know, like I got it. Like that really rang true to me. And then he started showing me numbers and statistics about, you know, what GDP really represents. And I began doing more and more research on this. And finally, I reached the conclusion I couldn't continue to do this. But I have to say, it was next to impossible to get out.
We're looking for people.
Damn, another commercial? Yeah, that's a strike of consciousness right there. And I get it. It starts small, see? That's what I mean. It starts small and you work your way big. And it's hard to tell where Trump stands with all this because we'll talk about that in a moment. Hold on. Okay, let's go back to the presentation.
And I was constantly told, well, you've got a great deal. I was a partner in this major consulting firm that was a partnership, and I was the youngest partner in the 100-year history of the firm. And, you know, I was told, you know, so look, you're doing good work, and you're making a lot of money, and you're flying first class around the world and staying in the finest hotels and eating in the best restaurants and wining and dining with presidents. And I grew up the son of a teacher in rural New Hampshire. You know, this was the American dream that I was living. And so not only was I having a lot of pressure not to get out, but there was this other side of me that didn't want to get out because I was living the American dream. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I was miserable. I was living on Valium and alcohol and caffeine. And so, you know, I would travel, like, for example, I was traveling to Indonesia a lot, and I would fly from Boston, end up spending a night in someplace like Hong Kong. And, you know, I'd go hang out in the bar at night, drink a lot of alcohol, take a Valium, knock myself out, go to bed, have to get up in the morning and drink tons of coffee, and then fly off to Indonesia and meet with people and negotiate huge deals, lots and lots of money. And I realized that maybe this was the American dream, but it wasn't my dream. I wasn't happy. So that was very, very important thing to finally see. But you know, I think there's a lot of people in this business today still, there were then and there still are, who really believe they're doing the right thing. And they're stuck in a system that reinforces that over and over. I was taught in business school, you know, that this was the right thing. Invest lots of money in infrastructure, watch the GDP grow. The World Bank continued to promote this. It still does. The business schools still do. How do we encourage people to wake up? How do we get them to wake up to what's really going on? And we see a lot of people waking up these days. So what's really going on?
How do you wake people up? Shows like mine, shows like Alex Jones, shows like Tucker Carlson, shows like Candace Owens, shows like, you know, and then you learning also, you doing research, you talking to them, you sitting them down, and you don't have to do a show, but you could go on the internet with a couple of your buddies, start bringing up these videos, start showing them, you know, start having the conversations, start moving the clock forward, if you will. So that's how it starts. And that's how it starts to wake people up. I mean, Alex Jones did it for me 25 years ago. Don't granted 25 years ago, I thought a lot of it was conspiracy theory and, I liked it. You know what I mean? So it may be hard to get somebody who's not very politically inclined to want to be involved, but you don't have to drag them in, but you could just start slow, start small, and, tell them, look, I believe we're running on borrowed time here. And the more people involved, the more people that wake up, the greater the chance of stopping this from happening could be, or altering it. Even if we can't stop the fourth turning, maybe we could help pioneer it or take it over in at least some aspects and make it what we want it to be. I mean, this is a small group of people. They're not the biggest group of people. And we do have alternatives for money. We have Bitcoin. We have, cryptocurrency. We got gold and silver. You still have barter and trade. So there are alternatives to the system. So there is still a chance. There's still hope. But we need as many people as we can get. And we need to start local and then work our way out like branches of a tree. And we need to start some sort of, groups and then connect those groups. We can work with people in other states. We could do it in one area and then pass that knowledge on to another area and another area and just keep going. So we got to find out what works and then pass that knowledge forward. There's time, but it's limited. There's a chance. It's not a great chance, but it's a chance. And all hope is not lost until it's completely gone.
I think if we just keep hammering away, my job is to do it through writing. I write books and films and speaking out. But everybody can play a role. I mean, teachers can teach kids about this and teach people about this. And I was lecturing a couple of months ago at a major U.S.
For just 60 seconds.
You gotta be shitting me. Come on now. Sorry, guys. There's a lot of commercials in this. Yeah. So there is tons of ways to get people involved, to get people interested. Books, videos, talking to people, going out to have a beer, maybe slightly bring it up, going out to dinner, having a barbecue at your house. And it doesn't have to necessarily be about Agenda 2030 and what's happening. You bring them in on that afterwards, but you could say, well, let's look at the economy, man. Hey, you see what's happening? Hey, what's going on with our local government? When's the last time you went to a board meeting? When's the last time you went to an open meeting at your town hall? When's the last time anybody you know has tried to hold a meeting? And you could do this at your church. You could do it after church. You could invite a few people over for a barbecue after church. This isn't something you have to take off work to do even. Like, you get a Saturday off, you get a Sunday off, you get a Monday off even. How many people in your area have that off or can come and meet you after work and have lunch, dinner? It all starts there, and then you just work your way forward. I have a small group of people in my area who I am trying to bring in. You know what I mean? So there's hope, and there's definitely a chance. You just got to take the risk, and we got to, no risk, no reward. And the route we're going already, well, there's no reward at the end of that tunnel. So why not give it a shot? Oh, hold on.
Give this speech about how we create a death economy and we need a life economy. And what I was doing was creating this death economy and this imperialistic system. And at the end, I opened it up to questions. And the gentleman in the room raises his hand. I called him. He said, you know, I'm an economics professor here. I've been here for 10 years. I'm tenured. And I've just realized that all this time, without even realizing it, I was teaching people to produce a death economy, to create an empire. I was actually encouraging people to become economic hitmen. That was my job, and I've just realized it. And then he said, what can I do about it? That's my question to you, Mr. Perkins. What can I do about it? I said, well, first of all, don't lose your job. These kids need you. So don't be too radical about this. It's a little bit like, you know, saying we need to get off oil, but we can't do it tomorrow. we've got to be reasonable about it. We've got to move into it. And I said, so, you know, tell these students what they can do to create a life economy. Don't tell them not to create a death economy. Oh, show them what they can do. Go into business that creates better solar energy or better wind power or whole new forms of energy that we haven't even conceived of yet. And go into businesses that create technologies for mining all the plastic that's in the oceans and recycling it or restoring destroyed forests or destroyed mine pits. You know, encourage your students to look to businesses that they will feel proud of sending on to their children and grandchildren. So, you know, move into this, but don't lose your job. But we also have to understand that some people will never get it, and don't bother to try. You know, like if Aunt Susie sits around the table during Thanksgiving and is insistent that there are no problems in the world and everything's just right, and she's totally insistent on that, let her have her insistence. You know, go to Uncle Ed, who is open to thinking in new ways.
Exactly what I was thinking. You're going to have people in your life, and that doesn't mean get rid of them, but you're going to have people in your life who just deny this as reality. They live in a completely different realm. They don't see what's going on. Like I said, only 5% even got involved in the Revolutionary War. So that's okay. And be their friend. You can still talk about sports with them. You can still talk about all the stuff that you guys still love, and you can leave politics out of it. But the people who you can reach, try to. And then try to formulate more with it. You know what I mean? Try to take it a little further. You know, like I said, local government. Maybe just a prepper group, even, if that's the route you go. Maybe you're not super political, but you're really good at prepping. Maybe because if a collapse does happen or something, or a natural disaster or anything like that, it's good to have a group of people. I mean, we are tribalistic, and it is good to have a little tribe. Either way, however you decide you start it, it is good to have a little tribe.
And I think that this is important. So yes, there are people that are economic hitmen today. There are jackals. There are people in the CIA who've been perhaps brainwashed. They've come out of the Navy SEALs, or they've come out of someplace like that. And they're probably never going to get it. But if we can get to the people who are their bosses, or you know, if we can get to the general population who's going to elect the next leaders of our country, and consciousness changes, then they will change too. And, you know, it's been my experience that I've known quite a few of the jackals, and I've learned from these people that usually, you know, they're followers. You know, they may be extremely brave at going out and shooting people or doing whatever it is, but they will follow what they're told is the right thing. They don't necessarily think too much about what really is the right thing. They trust the sergeant, they trust the general, they trust whoever. So if we can, you know, change the perception of what it means to be successful, then those who are most committed to doing whatever it is it takes will do what it takes to turn all that around and create the life economy. You know, so how do we, how do you define success? And if we can turn around the definition of success from being one of accumulating more and more stuff, maximizing profits and so on, and say, yeah, businesses have to make a profit, but they don't have to maximize it. They can put some of it toward the long term and toward helping their employees more. Why does Musk, or why do any of the billionaires have to keep making more and more and more billions? It's a sickness. It's an addiction. I want my your yacht is bigger than mine. I got to go out and buy a new yacht. And it's a sickness. It's an addiction. You can call it anything you want.
The most relaxed.
Yeah, it is, and you can see it within him. I mean, and I like Elon Musk, so I don't like to throw him in this, but does he need $1 trillion truly to, for SpaceX, for everything else? Because he gets a lot of government grants. Do a lot of these companies truly, does Jeff Bezos need 400 billion? Does Google need to be worth $4 trillion or $1 trillion or whatever they are worth? I mean, and I get a lot of it's not cold hard cash. A lot of it's bonds, stocks, and just the worth of the company itself. But how much is enough, at a certain point? And I agree with that. And at least, okay, if you have that obsession to make that type of money, what about a little kickback for your employees, man? Wouldn't it be nice for them? And let's say, oh, well, I can't give them too much, they'll retire. There's other employees, bro. There's other people who need jobs. So even if that employee feels like they've made enough and they go retire, you can replace that person and do it all over again. You know what I mean? There's always enough people who need a job. There's always people who need a job. How many of our people here in America are actually employed? All right, back to our presentation here.
So we now have a system in the United States where parents are considered equal partners with the government. This is actually enshrined in federal policy. And if you read the policy, they don't mean equal partners at all. They mean parents are the junior partners. And they've testified to this. Miguel Cardona, the Secretary of Education under Joe Biden, was asked point blank in a Senate hearing if parents are the primary stakeholders in the education of their children. Well, they're important stakeholders, but really educators, and he cut them off there. So they regard parents as, at best, an annoyance to be kind of kept at arm's length. This is, in my opinion, straight from the pit of hell, right? There's nobody who loves a child more than his or her parents. There's nobody who cares more about the well-being of that child than his or her parents. But this actually gets to really a fundamental question that I think all of us should be asking is, why did we allow the government to educate our children in the first place? I mean, if you look back at the history, I can tell you it wasn't to give them a good education. It was always to move them in a particular direction. I frankly think we need to get away from that whole idea. Government really should not be in the business of education. The purpose of government, the Bible says, is to punish evil. It's not to educate kids. It's not to give you health care. It's not to take your neighbor's money and give it to you. It's to punish evil. And when they do that, they're acting in their lane. When they're trying to educate children, even if they had the best of intentions, right? It's like the collective farms in the Soviet Union. Even if the people running the collective farms had good intentions, which they often didn't, it still wouldn't work because it's just, you get rid of the proper incentives. You have government control instead of market mechanisms and price signals. So it's a disaster, even in the best of circumstances. The solution then isn't to alter the policy a little bit or to do some policy tweaks and improve the collective farm. The solution is to get rid of the collective farm and go back to what worked, which was private property rights. And I believe that really is going to have to be the long-term solution when it comes to education. We never should have allowed government. We never should have trusted government with the education of our children in the first place.
Public schools were always a scam. It was never to teach your children. It was always to push an agenda. It was always a great way for them to push an agenda, and it was always a great way for them to take control of your kids, take you out of the equation, and create 9-to-5 workers. In Prussia, where school was actually created, he created it to create 9-to-5 workers, make them just smart enough to run the machines, just smart enough to twist and turn the knobs and screw the thing together, and that was it. It was not to make your kids more intelligent and push them into the future. That's always happened, if you notice, after the fact. How most of the people who are highly intelligent get intelligent, that's all basic learning bullshit. That's all it is. Most people got intelligent by going out and finding the books, reading them on their own, learning by working with their hands, learning by actually doing the job. That's how you learn. The 9 to 5 school bullshit was just that. It was to teach your kids to get up at a certain time, go home, do this, this, and this, and then go to bed and do it all again, rinse and repeat the next day. It was never for their educational purpose. It was for a multitude of reasons, which I already said. So, yeah.
If you look at American history, for almost all of American history up until starting in the mid-1800s, education was entirely the responsibility of parents, and to the extent that they needed some assistance or wanted some assistance, they went to their churches, they went to their communities, they went to their extended family, they went to their neighbors. They didn't turn to government. So in my opinion, this is one of the most critical issues. Even in the countries where education hasn't gotten as horrific as it has in the United States, people need to know that's the direction it's headed. I know that's the direction it's headed because the U.S. government, the UNESCO, the UN Education Agency are working together on bringing all the education systems of the world into this global system. And so that's the direction it's moving. And I think parents and church leaders and people from all walks of life, taxpayers, need to really ask, is this appropriate for the government to educate our children? And I hope that they will find that the answer is no, that's not appropriate.
It's never been appropriate. It's never been appropriate because it's never been about educating your children. It's never been about educating your children. It's always about teaching them to be good little slaves, teaching them to listen when they're told to by authority. It's all been about authoritarian control, and it's all about implementing whatever plan they wanted to push forward at the moment. Like, look at colleges have ruined so many of our kids, and even the schools are in on it now, the regular schools, of course, teaching them socialism, teaching them you're bad because you're this, and America bad, and this bad, and that bad. It's been a social engineering program more than it's been an education program. And that's what we're all waking up to realize, that it's all along been a social engineering program for whatever the latest, whatever the government needs to push onto you. So that's why it's so important for us to go back into our communities again, take back these school boards, take back our local governments, and it all starts from there. This whole top-down bullshit is just that. It's top-down bullshit. Everything worth a damn started from the grassroots and worked its way up through the soil and, bared fruit. You know what I mean? You don't bear fruit from the top down, you bear fruit from the ground up. So that's where it starts. And it ends at the top, if we can get there. But at least if we take over our local school boards, we could turn local schools into real learning camps, real places of education, if we take it back and get rid of these history books that are nothing but lies. Teach world history, actual history. Teach, math past, algebra, you know what I mean? Like, which is all simple stuff. Teach science, real science again. Maybe implement wood shops again. Maybe implement, certain things that actually work to hold our society together. We're living a lie right now, and it's up to us to destroy that lie and push forward. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation. It's almost over. Only a couple minutes left here, so might as well hear it out.
Our ability to survive is our ability to be local, think local. The idea that the elites who did this to everybody somehow win in the end is not true. That's the failure will be so colossal that everybody will reject it, and the only way to survive is to be local, wherever you're at. Think local. Think local. All your happiness is local. All the people that you associate with that you'll depend on are local. You almost have to kind of look at it like planets, right? So we have our solar system. We got our few little planets around us. You think about your own personal life. I have people that I'm really close to, but that's very few. I know lots of people. I have lots of people that consider me their friends. But the reality is I'm limited because time limits me. Honestly, I would have 1 million planets around me if I could, and if I could have all that time, but I don't have that time with them. So I have to really think about finding a place that is local with people who are like-minded like me. People who are like-minded have a value system. Their politics is common sense. It's not Democrat or Republican or liberal or whatever. All those things are really quite meaningless when it comes down to looking back at your life and who's in your bedroom as you're taking your last breath. It's those last few planets that are around you. It's all local. So, and the elites can't change that. They'll never be able to change that, ever.
There you have it. It's all local, and it all starts with you. Hold on one sec here. It's all local, and it all starts with you. It all starts with you finding those local planets, people around you that want to hear you out and want to affect change. And then you taking the next step, educating yourself, seeing what it takes to become comp controller or mayor or anything you can do on the school board, whatever you can do. Stop handing your responsibilities to other people. If you want real change in your area and in your local area, and then that change affects nationwide eventually with enough people doing it, you got to stop handing responsibility off. It's all about accountability and taking action and responsibility. And it's our responsibility to take responsibility for our own lives. And that's truly where it's at. It's about taking back control of where you live and who you are, and that's how we stop this. Your schools, your streets, start meeting with the police. Start talking to them. Start getting a repertoire with the people who at least you have elected. Start talking to them. Start emailing them. Start writing letters. Start calling their office. Start having conversations. Maybe try to set up like a once a month sit down breakfast with these people. The ones that'll listen and talk to you. Because they're all equal in those chambers. Each elected official. So it's up to you how you start and how you start communicating and getting it out there. And that's where it starts. And it all starts in your local area. And that's something the elites and the federal government can't stop. Because they can't stop each one of us in our small towns, our big cities even, from starting a local group of activists. And I don't mean activists. That's why I kind of avoided saying activists, but just a local chapter of the American family chapter, whatever you want to call it, and then that starts with going down to the public meetings, speaking at them. That all starts with speaking to your local police and your local sheriff's department and just getting a repertoire with these people and seeing what you can do to help make your community better and make things better. And then when it's time to stand and say no to whatever is coming, You may find that you actually have a bigger backing, but it takes action and it takes accountability. And it's scary initially, but it's worth doing in the end if you want to save yourself and your family and the people around you. And like they said, it's not going to be everybody, but it could be enough to spark a change. And that's the real beginning of it. It might be initially a little rough. You might not find many people in your local area that want to have that conversation, that want to stay up on it. That's why you got to create a group, and you got to have a leader of that group, and that leader of that group's got to, keep people engaged. Engagement is what stops this from happening. And even if you can't get into the local offices and local, mayor's office, even if you can't personally, maybe you can talk to the people who are and see what you can do to affect change that way. Because in the end, we got to do something. We cannot just sit on our hands and let this global agenda push us into what they want us to be. Because that's all they're doing. They don't have any real authority. We have the real authority within our own lives and locally and with our own people. Just like the COVID stuff. Not every little local government pushed that agenda. A lot of the big cities went along with it, but a lot of the local surrounding areas didn't, and it all starts there. Hold on one second. It's all about what we do from here forward. I want to see if I can find what Alex said to end this. I do want to put you guys on to something here quick. And I know if you watch me, you probably do watch Alex. But this right here.
And as evidence,
this was a really good interview he did. I'm not going to play the whole thing because we're already 2 hours in and I'm almost done here for the day. But if I can get you to go over and watch this. This was a really great interview he did with Professor Chang. I don't want to say his name. I'm going to butcher it. So if you want to go over and watch this episode was mainly, my episode today was about Agenda 2030. And if you're late coming in, you may want to go rewatch. I don't know, whatever you would like to do there. But today was about Agenda 2030. And I know that's like an older subject for some. But I wanted to talk about how we are still in that phase. And they're trying to collapse the economy now. They're in the last death throes of that, or the last bit of that. And a lot of people keep talking about Trump. He's actually playing 3D chess against them at the Strait of Hormuz. I wish I could find that Tim Pool clip where he says, maybe I can. Hold on one second. Oh, crap. No. Damn it. Oh, hold on one sec, guys. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can bring up Tim Pool here. I want to show you guys a video clip because it goes along with Agenda 2030 and everything I've said. Basically, in the video, Tim says Trump he took Venezuela for a reason. He took the Strait of Hormuz for a reason, and that he's trying to collapse the world order and make us that by sending the oil and the other things our way, which I can see. It's just so hard to, because he's doing a lot of other things that are very wonky. We did take Venezuela for a reason. We definitely took the Strait of Hormuz for some reason, and it can't just be for Israel. I'm sorry. I don't believe that fully. And even though I do think it benefits them, I don't think it was solely for that reason. He is doing something behind the scenes, but is it enough? I don't know. And if he is, then we need to back that as much as we possibly can in any way possible. And even if he's not, we still need to start grassroots movements from the bottom up. Okay? And that's just the way it is. So even if Tim Pool is right, let me see if maybe I can find the video. Hold on. Let me see if I can find the video here. I saw it earlier. Hold on one sec, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't have that video lined up. That's why I had the Agenda 2030 thing lined up. I did not have that particular video lined up. So I'm sorry if this is taking a moment, but yeah, Agenda 2030 though is not far off. And if we don't start our own movements to sustain ourselves and take ourselves off the world teat, then we're going to fall hard into it. I wish I could find that darn clip that Tim Pool had up. Hold on. Tim Pool. Trump's plan. Let me see if that works. Sorry, guys. Let me just see if I can find this. Okay. I don't want to risk him flagging my entire video over it, so I'm just going to listen to, hopefully he's not like that, and we'll just listen to it. I'm not going to show it. And you can go over to him and check Tim Pool out. He's okay. Okay, this ain't the right video, but basically Tim showed a video, and he what he did was he went on the world globe, and you guys might have seen it even, and he showed how strategically we've taken Venezuela, and we've taken the Strait of Hormuz, and then how that's weakened China, and that's weakened other people, and it's definitely weakened Iran. So I definitely think on that scale it's been good. But has it weakened the world order enough? That's where I don't quite know if it's weakened exactly the people we need to weaken, or oh, you know what? You guys probably didn't hear any of that because I don't have it on there. Yeah. Okay. My bad on that. You guys didn't hear it. I didn't have the share on. My bad. I'm sorry, guys. Still kind of new to this, so.
To be the scapegoat, to be the chaos agent, to spread.
And just like Roosevelt, he gets a third term.
I think he's going to get a third term. I think he will get a third term because there's no alternative.
And you said that about a year ago, the first time I saw it. Maybe you said it earlier.
They think he'll get a third term. I don't think Trump's going to run for a third term. He's 80 years old, for God's sakes. That would be insane. I think he's going to endorse Vance or Rubio, unless he has some third dark horse candidate we don't know about, but I think it'll be Rubio or Vance. I think Trump is at that age where he'd probably like to go play golf, enjoy being with his grandchildren and his children, enjoy the money he has, and live his life. I don't know if I 100% agree with that.
Before he even was really pushing it.
Yeah.
Well, give us your more predictions then.
I think Trump's is going to get a third term, and I think that once he gets his third term, there's certain things he will do in order to consolidate his power. The first thing he will do is create his own private military force, right? So think of ICE, but now under the control of Trump. That's the first thing. Second thing
ICE is the cover for a domestic federal force.
That's right. Completely loyal to Trump and only Trump. Second thing is you will see the United States colonize North America, Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Venezuela, Mexico.
Those aren't jokes.
Those are not jokes. And the reason why is once he gets a third term, there's going to be a lot of domestic opposition towards him. And so what he can do is he can use these colonies to bribe powerful factions. Right, so let's give Venezuela to ExxonMobil. Now, ExxonMobil is completely dependent on Trump. Let's give the Alberta tar sands to Chevron. Right, so he's basically colonizing.
He's a king handing away stuff to viceroys.
That's right, and that way he can lessen domestic opposition.
So it really is imperial. It's imperial behavior. So he really is a king, whether he's not officially or not.
Right, and then the third thing is you know about the Trump's ballroom, right? He's talking about the ballroom.
Big underground base.
It's a big underground data center. If you look at the contractors,
it's a commando for the whole thing.
That's right.
So I wanted to ask you, that's on my list. So what is this? The U.S. already has more data centers than everybody else in the world. What is this saying? You don't get energy, you don't get food, but these things get 100 times. You have Eric Schmidt of Google saying we need 100 times the power for these. What the hell's going on?
It's the AI control grid. It's a bring in digital ID and digital currency so that everyone can be monitored and everyone can be categorized.
And only the U.S. will have the technocracy to implement it globally. That's why the race.
That's right.
Do you think Trump consciously knows what he's doing, or do you think he's just influenced or basically possessed?
As for the data centers, just a quick note on that. That might be key. If we could stop those data centers, if we go out and protest them enough and say no data centers here, that might be another linchpin to stopping Agenda 2030, or at least throwing a monkey wrench in it for now. Anything we can do to buy more time. And I do want to say this for those out there. Stop focusing on flock so much, or it's okay to focus on flock cameras, but they're actually trying to get rid of flock as well, the government, because they want to put Axion cameras. So they're just trading one for the other. They got you focused on flock only, but really Axion is taking over the flock camera space. They want to sign a contract with Axion, and that Axion is the ones that do the body cams for, if you notice when you watch police videos, it says Axion. So it's not just flock, it's also Axion. So we got to be careful. Focus on flock. I mean, we should just focus on no cameras. I get the whole flock thing, but at the same time, there's other companies that are vying for those contracts. And flock is not the only set of cameras out there. There's Axion and there's another one as well. So just beware.
I think that Trump will surprise us. I think that for the past 10 years, Trump has been surprising everyone. I think that Trump believes he's on a divine mission, and it's a debate who he truly works for.
I said that years ago when I spiritually, at a discernment level, past all my knowledge, just focus on him with the Holy Spirit. I like see good and evil flickering. It's
That's
like
right.
a very, I've never
That's
seen
right.
anybody else like this.
But
and so what I'm saying is, I'm not saying I even back Trump now. I'm against what he's doing, but I don't hold out God's plan. Something in me tells me we might see a huge turn out of him.
That's right. That's right. I think that if you look at all these historical figures, they were all very complex, contradictory figures. And
so what I'm thinking is the whole plan is very complex, and maybe on our end we jumped the gun on certain things and just threw him to the side because we didn't understand it. And he can't come out and just say the plan. If you come out and tell everybody your plan, well, now your enemy knows your plan too. So there's definitely something going on. And I wish I could find that Tim Pool video where he explains what Trump has done at this point. It's just a quick little 2-3 minute video. I should have had it ready because it kind of went in with the Agenda 2030 stuff that I'm talking about. I'm sorry, guys. That's on me. But maybe with Trump, we are jumping the gun. Maybe we are overlooking some things that he is doing. And then maybe he had to make some pivot points for this person or that person to get. A plan never goes to full fruition. You rarely do you write a plan and I got 100% of it all done. You know, you've always had to jump through some hoops. So we've always had to jump through hoops. I don't know. I just don't know what to think. It's so crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, it was what I'm hoping for. It could be hope. Could be just hopium. You know? So, but let's hope not. Let's hope that Trump really is playing some sort of 3D chess game here, and he's got their backs up against the wall.
Ultimately, it's his choice to make. But I would not be surprised if he were to surprise all of us at the end.
Real time, uncensored.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. You know, that's pretty smart actually.
And then I lied about paying her off under direction for you. Remember when I lied to try to destroy your life and send you to a concrete box for decades? That was crazy. Wasn't that so crazy when I did that? That was nuts. And Trump's like, yeah, that was crazy, man. I can't believe you did that. Anyway, how you doing? Meanwhile, Alex Jones is like drowning, just like weights pulling his neck down. He's like struggling to stay above water as like all of Trump's enemies punish Alex Jones for supporting Trump in the first place. Just like stabbing him in the eye with a spear. And Trump is just like, look at that idiot drowning. Look at that moron drowning when I could help him. Do you know Donald Trump went on Michael Cohen's podcast?
And it's a talking donkey, and the Bible reports conversations.
Sorry, I'm doom scrolling. I was just trying to see if I could find that video. I guess I'm not going to. Okay, so you guys can go watch the full video right there. Alex did a great video today. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for me. I think we had a good talk about Agenda 2030. I think we had a good discussion about how to start formulating a plan and moving forward and stopping it. It all starts locally. It all starts with one of us doing something and then that catching fire. So that's the gist of it for today, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you. Let's stop this before it's too late. Let's get involved before it's too late. Let's take back our education. Let's take back our small towns, our cities, our large cities, anything we can. We need to return back to the people. People have the power. It all derives from us. It's all given from us to them. And we need to remind them of that. And it all starts with small group organization and moving forward from there. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for joining me. I will see you tomorrow. It's going to be a little late because I got both my jobs and I'm hitting the gym. So it might not be till about 5, 6 o'clock at night tomorrow. Sorry so late, but you know, I got to work my jobs and do my thing. I don't make any money off this. This is all free time. So if you'd like to, you hit that sub, hit that like button. That surely helps. I do appreciate it all. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for listening. Have a beautiful Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow, guys. And I'm going to leave you with this.
There's nothing special about being American. None of you can define for me what an American is.
I am the nation. I was born on July 4th, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate. The bloodlines of the world run in my veins because I offered freedom to the oppressed. I am many things and many people. I am the nation. I am 200 million living souls and the ghost of millions who have lived and died for me. I am Nathan Hale and Paul Revere. I stood at Lexington and fired the shot heard round the world. I'm Washington, Jefferson, Patrick Henry. I'm John Paul Jones, the Green Mountain Boys, Davy Crockett. I'm Lee,